You're listening to episode 378 of the Major Issues Podcast. And on this episode, we cover Grant Morrison's We3 just in time for his 20th anniversary. The Major Issues Podcast starts right now. Hello, everybody out there in comic book land. My name is George Serrano, aka The Don, and if you're listening to this, you can only be here for one reason, and that's a brand new episode of the Major Issues Podcast, brought to you each and every week by ComicBookClique.com. And as always, I am never alone, sir. If you could please introduce yourself.
It's me again, guys. Alex Garcia, aka The Cog, the comic OG, and we are talking some OG comics right here.
We definitely are, which means I needed the comic OG around to cover some OG comics, and I'm not liking that now a lot of this stuff is OG. maybe I'm coming across the hill now, because I'm hearing songs getting sampled, and I'm like, back in my day, and I'm like, shut up. This is a TikTok song now. So there's one of the benefits to having a comic OG as part of the Comic Book Clique and the Major Issues Podcast is your extensive knowledge of these comics has allowed us to pick up some genuine gems that we've been able to sit here and discuss. We've talked often about Grant Morrison as a writer, tremendous writer, and he just announced that he's returning to one of the big two very, very soon. And like, I don't know, all of this stuff felt like kismet because we got James Gunn's Superman right around the corner. James Gunn actually wrote the foreword for the story that we'll be covering today, We3, which is celebrating its 20th anniversary as a trade this year. I guess I want to ask you, as somebody who was around when all this came out, do you remember the rollout of this story? Do you remember any of the promotion? What made you kind of want to pick up this story when you did?
Well, two names: Grant Morrison, Frank Quietly.
Yeah.
Right around the time that this had come out, they were just on a roll. I mean, where exactly in the timeline is fuzzy because I didn't take my ginkgo biloba today.
Yeah.
So but right around this time, Grant Morrison was coming off of his extensive success with Image or other Image books with
I'm looking, and this is literally off the back of New X-Men.
Right. This is right. And the Marvel stuff. I'm almost confusing his work with Warren Ellis, which is horrible. That's the sign of how I'm getting I'm aging, and I should have just had his IMDb of comics up beforehand.
It's all the forever plastics in the
Definitely agree. That's on me. But Grant Morrison is one of those names that it's on a book, you're gonna read it, even though you're gonna read it and probably go, I gotta read it again now because I didn't get everything. That's Grant. I mean, this right here is 3 issues that when you finish reading it, you felt like you read 12. And that's also a huge compliment to Frank Wiley, who, the two of them have done so much work together. Whether it's their run on New X-Men, this book, All-Star Superman. I forget which Superman.
Yeah, All-Star
Superman. And I wouldn't be surprised if I'm missing a few others. But Grant, redefined the Justice League with that run that he had on Justice League at the time. I'm trying to remember some of the other Image books. They're just I can't believe how much my brain is just falling out.
This is fried right now.
It's just gone. This is called Wednesday. It's really
maybe
hot.
You need some tech upgrades for your brain.
Yes, definitely.
Some cybernetic.
Trying to translate the communication of these animals was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was. Definitely.
I'm wondering how you felt about certain dialogue that they were sharing, because sometimes I'm sitting there going, "Oh, I think they mean this," and then the next page I go, "Nope, I'm pretty sure I got that translation wrong."
Ironically, this is not our first time covering adventure between animals that can barely speak, because we did Primordial.
That's right.
That's Jeff Lemire.
That was Jeff Lemire. That was
Yeah,
Jeff Lemire and hmm.
Jeff. Is it
Andrea
Dustin?
Sorrentino,
Oh, yes, 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 yes.
Andrea Sorrentino, another like they're like almost like the modern Jeff Morrison quietly. But speaking of some of the stuff that he's written, and some of the stuff I've never even read, I'll be put it right out there, and I should.
Fair.
The Invisibles is
I've
something
heard of
that
this.
so many people will say you should have read. He had a run on Animal Man. I mean, and just tons of other books. I mean, he basically controlled DC during that crisis to crisis time, if you remember that, if you remember those periods of time. I mean, the guy was just hitting home run after home run in that like late 90s to early 2010s period, to the point where now he does he doesn't really write much, which is why it is such a huge announcement that he just made where he's coming back to one of the big two. I feel like he's like LeBron James right now. It's like I'll let y'all know in the
Going
week
back to South Beach.
where I'm gonna take my talents to,
Yeah, right.
But I believe he's gonna definitely come back with Frank, because Frank is another guy who hasn't been around in a while, and I can see
Hmm.
the two of them coming back. And as much as I want to say he's coming back to Marvel, I have a feeling he's doing DC.
Yeah, they are
I
doing
do.
like a little bit of a renaissance over there at DC. I think both
Yeah.
sides are actually trying to lock down some stellar talent. So that is definitely interesting there. Um, this is what probably one of the easiest to follow Grant Morrison stories. I've read some ones that
Oh yeah.
get a little dense.
Very.
Um,
I've heard the Invisibles is just insane, and it's kind of made me go, yeah, I'm not ready to read something that's going to require me to then do one of those. What's that dude from Always Sunny?
oh,
The
it's
meme,
Charlie. He
Charlie
does a
with
conspiracy.
oh my god, this is how it's connected. Oh yeah, I sometimes just want to see the good guy get beat up by the bad guy. I mean, the bad guy get beat up by the good guy.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And this is not our typical cape stuff that we're covering today. This is not, or there's no real origin story. There are no superpowers. The villain is man, which it just happens to be in a lot of these cases. Uh, but the story is still incredibly human, and it still has a ton of heart. And the more it's like one of those weird like illusion pictures where the more you look at it, the more you get out of it.
Yes.
This is one of those times where I would implore those that are interested in the story to check it out. My recap, while detailed, is just going to rob you of the visual storytelling that happens in this
Mhm.
book. Some of the ways they play with panels, smashing in and out of them, jumping through them like they're hoops. It's very playful, but the subject matter is incredibly dense and incredibly what's the other word? Serious, I guess I would say.
Mhm.
Bleak on occasion. So,
It's I mean, just this is probably my favorite panel that I got behind me.
yes.
And it's both enthralling, I feel like, from a science perspective, like, whoa, the integration of man and machine, and it's so beautiful with the stars in the background, and wow, what is done. But when you know the story, and it's just like, no, these are death machines, built with at the heart of them some of your favorite home animals that you cuddle up with,
Yeah.
and each one of them is capable of taking out an insurgence of 20, 30, 40, 50 people possibly.
Yeah. Yep.
But then they'll ask you if they did good.
Yeah, if they're a good boy, which, you want to talk about heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm ready to get into this recap and review. It's only 3 issues, people, but we're gonna have a hell of a conversation about it. Like I said, these are animals and told from the perspective of animals, so there's not much dialogue. And we'll get into how these animals are able to communicate. And pause to talk about the heavy themes and the subject matter that this story has to encompass. But before we get into our full recap and review, a little bit of homework up front. We3 is a 3-issue comic miniseries by Grant Morrison and Frank Quietly, described by the creators as Western manga for its fast-paced kinetic style. It was published by DC's Vertigo imprint in 2004, with a trade paperback following in 2005. New Line Cinema optioned for a film or optioned it for a film in 2006, with Morrison writing the script and producers Don Murphy, Susan Montford, and Rick Benatar attached. The cybernetic animals were planned to be fully CGI. In 2008, Kung Fu Panda director John Stevenson joined the project, though New Line had stepped away. In 2015, in a 2015 Facebook Q&A, James Gunn named We3 as a comic he'd love to adapt, and some of its DNA made it into Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in 2023. So I don't believe this film is going to end up getting made. It blows my mind that New Line Cinema was going to greenlight not only the film, but with Morrison writing the script. That's a very rare occasion where they actually let the writer on board for the creative process. I think of things like I Kill Giants, right? Where Joe Kelly was able to, write the adaptation for his book. But for the most part, the writers of these stories on the outside looking in, famous stories of, Ed Brubaker getting like pennies on the dollar for Winter Soldier when Winter Soldier became a blockbuster hit. So the idea that they were ever going to do that, option for a film in 2006, this comes out in paperback 2005. So they must have knew they had a hit off of the rip. And this is not like, oh, let's look through the bin to find what books haven't been covered kind of situation. This is like, this deserves to be covered. And in 2006, if they would have started it, this could have come out around the same time as things like Iron Man and The Dark Knight, which would have been bonkers. And DC was kind of cornering that market at the time. They didn't know about the MCU. They were kind of cornering the market with Batman Begins and stuff. So it would have been really, really interesting. I do think it would have been one of those butterfly effect things. If this thing was able to come out when it does, it transforms what people think a comic book film could be. And I think it just kind of changes the trajectory of what comic book films are now. People often talk about them being for kids, or even the medium in general being for kids, but there's nothing for kids in this book. I would wait quite a long time before I introduce this story to children, is what I'd say.
Absolutely. I mean, this is, the cover alone shows you like, okay, this is not a kid's story at all. And just kind of want to make an editor's note, because talk about being an OG and needing some medication. Yeah, during this time I was reading a lot of Grant Morrison, Warren Ellis.
Okay.
So I kind of just mashed them together. Yeah, Grant did almost no image books, and because we take for granted this imprint, but the Vertigo imprint, DC's Vertigo imprint, that's Image and the Vertigo imprint were very similar in what they were producing, at least in my memory and that quality. I remember this as an Image book, and only now when you were saying it, I was like, oh, this was Vertigo. Oh, Vertigo, which thank God has come back. But we've only gotten like 2 issues of Vertigo. This was all the Vertigo. And I mean, Grant was one of those guys, along with, dare I say the name, Neil Gaiman.
Right. Yeah.
Who built Vertigo, with The Invisibles, with We3, and a couple other books, along with the entire mainline DC universe at one point.
And he was kind of a protege, even though he kind of ended up souring on him, of Alan Moore, who was doing a lot of that, avant-garde sort of storytelling back in the day. And then kind of Morrison comes around the back with it. And one of the things I like about Morrison is he's seemingly unapologetic. The story he wants to tell, he's going to tell. He don't care if you get it. Mm-hmm. He doesn't care if you really understand what's going on. But he has an idea in his mind, and he just does it. Yeah. So
he's also more embracing of the comic medium than I feel like Alan. I feel like is like I had to produce these, but it's not literature. Whereas
comic books to Alan Moore is his ex. That's his ex. He's never gonna say anything good about it. Yeah. Broke his heart, and he got nothing. He got nothing left. He gave it all. It didn't work. He's not questioning why it didn't work. I mean, the industry's always been the industry, and Grant is more like yeah, I get it. You understand? Like, this is my ex, but I ain't got no beef. It is what it is. We'll hook up on occasion too. Sometimes.
I really enjoy, just how much he embraces the comic medium.
Yeah.
And I love how much he would even make himself look like Lex Luthor.
Yes, 100%. And he's drawn as Brainiac in something, I want to say. I feel like I can't remember right now, but if somebody looked it up. He definitely was the model for Brainiac in some story, which is very interesting because he has a very distinct face.
I could see Gary Frank doing that when Jeff Johns had that Superman run.
I want to say, like, for some reason, my mind is going like Alex Ross for some reason. Oh yeah, Grant Morrison was almost DC's Brainiac, and Alex Ross' Proposal. Inspired by his gradual takeover of DC Comics mainstream, I intended to do a tribute to prolific writer Grant Morrison, characterized as the master planner Superman villain Brainiac. I was discouraged from distracting the audience with his well-known likeness. Still, a more sinister, restrained approach emerged for many villains in our story.
Ah, wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Alex Ross.
yeah. I mean, they
Nice.
made. Isn't Kirby like he above all or whatever? I feel
In
like he
Marvel,
was.
in
Yeah,
Marvel,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's what I'm saying. So,
when Mr. Fantastic invaded heaven to go save the Thing,
yeah,
he made himself look like Jack Kirby.
yeah. So I mean, this could have
Which
just been that.
again, boo, speaking of Grant Morrison, he wrote my favorite Fantastic Four story, which I recommend to everybody. Fantastic Four 1, 2, 3, 4. It's by
Oh,
far my favorite Fantastic
I
Four
thought that was
story.
the issue. I was like, what the hell? No, the one,
No,
two,
that was
three,
the name of the story.
four.
It's
Yeah.
To me, it still has the greatest interpretation of Reed Richards
Hmm.
in that when you are that level of genius, you don't talk a lot.
No.
And in those four issues, Reed like says almost nothing because he's just constantly like, yeah, I'm doing something, I'm solving a universal problem. No one else in this building can even comprehend it. And when I'm done, I'll deal with the issues that you guys have going on.
And that's the biggest
It's
thing, right? He has no
great.
one to really relate to in that world where he can be like,
Yes.
oh, well, I'm trying to get the neutrons to do the nanotron thing,
Yeah,
whatever the fuck.
exactly. Like
Johnny's
as
like,
fun as
yeah,
those
I'm gonna go. I got a concert I'm gonna go to.
classic interactions are, where Reed, sits there and goes, "Oh, Ben, I need you to go get the accelerometer in order to interpret the universal pattern so that we can disable Galactus's warship from reinterpreting the universe." Say it again to me in English, Stretcho.
In English, Stretch. Yeah,
Right, not all of us speak like that.
yeah,
Reed to me would not. He would just be, at most, he'd be like, "Yo, pass me that."
yeah,
Because it's just I don't have time to explain this to you because it's a waste of time.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that puts
So
us all on everybody else's level, wondering what he's up to, why he keeps it to himself. And I'm somebody
right,
who I kind of gravitate towards dialogue, especially when characters are done right, when the voices are done right. Some of these, savage moments or whatever are amazing. But I'm reading a book that's almost entirely action, very
yep.
little dialogue, and it almost makes me dig deeper. Uh, yeah,
It's a testament to not only great writing, but a writer trusting his artist. And Grant
and
and
both
Frank,
trusting the audience, right?
yeah,
Because overall they're like, this is what it is, people will get it. Don't worry,
yeah,
we don't have to at the like none of the issues of We3 start off like an issue of a comic where it's like, in the last issue this is what happened.
nope,
It's like you either got it or you didn't. Kind of
yeah,
stuff. One of the things off the rip I'll say, at some point in my breakdown I start to just refer to the animals as their regular names, their given human names, because one of the
hmm
things that is revealed more off screen, quote unquote, is that all of these animals are missing from their homes. They are wanted and help
hmm
posters and flyers put up of these three animals. So one of the first things that needs to be discussed, or one of the first things that one of the first themes in general, is that these things are being ripped from their homes. So this is
right,
not like these were animals were bred for what they're about to become. They will be made from what they're about to become, and
right.
they were stolen. So that's just nefarious on the face of it. But let's get into our full recap and review. Spoilers, 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 people. 3 issues, but We3 issue 1 kicks off with a bang, literally. We open up on a group of heavily armed mercenaries lounging in a lavish hideout, unaware that they're being watched. Something or some things are slinking through the vents above them. One guy spots a flicker of glowing lights in the shadows, just as their leader upstairs on a treadmill hears something fast and mechanical racing towards him. He grabs a pair of Uzis and sprays the door in panic, but is too late. The door explodes open, and we get our first glimpse of these monstrous, mysterious, armored creatures. And we only kind of get glimpses of them. We don't get to see them full on. And they absolutely wreck this man in a blur of high-tech weaponry. We cut to downstairs, and the rest of all the mercs are nothing but blood and bits on the ground. It's mission complete. The entire building gets wiped off the map in an explosion, and the attackers, now clearly on a tight military schedule, retreat into a truck and vanish into the night. The next morning, news spreads of the high-profile assassination, and the truck pulls into a classified sector of a Air Force base. It's there the curtain gets pulled back. Inside those mechanical suits, a dog, a cat, and a rabbit. Welcome to the We3 program.
There it is. And the first 16 pages of this book, no dialogue.
Bonkers.
None.
Yeah.
Zero dialogue. That blew me away because upon my reread, I sat there, when do we get our first word? And it's not even by a human. Oh, it is a human. I'm sorry. No, it is human. It is human.
Yeah, it is human. Yeah.
You know, but I almost feel as though that human that's speaking is more like an animal than a human in how when we get to see how that character
how cruel that they kind of are.
You know, but seeing these animals do what they do, and you know, unless you know the cover, seeing them just be these perfect soldiers is jarring
and incredibly efficient. And go in, they do what they got to do, and then they get out. Like I said before, like overnight news hits, the assassination happened. All the people taken care of. They get into that truck. No one has an issue. No one bats an eye. And the glimpses that you see, you know, they are so expertly done that you don't assume that unless you, I mean, obviously you've seen the cover, but you know, it doesn't just lead you to believe that these are just household pets, basically. Just the way that the suits are made and the glowing antennae that you see, as you know, from the corners of the panels, because you don't really get a good look on them until here. And then like they're not even, I don't know, like they're not even like the scariest dog, right? They're not the scariest dog.
No.
Or like a bobcat. Like there's a house cat, a golden retriever, and a rabbit. Like these creatures are normally not very intimidating, but they're retrofitted with these humongous armored bodies. And that juxtaposition instantly kind of crashes with you. It's important for them to show you how efficient and how deadly they are before identifying them as these individual animals, so that you have that conflict in your mind where you go, damn, so those cute little things did this. Bonkers.
No, it just tells you, like, what am I getting into here? What is the purpose of this story?
Yeah,
because I remember when I first read it, I was waiting. To me, the twist was going to be like, oh, these things are really geniuses, and they're really the masterminds of everything, and this is some kind of like animal takeover thing.
Yeah.
Nope.
No. It's at the base that we learned that this trio of cyber enhanced animals is the brainchild of a top secret R&D initiative aimed at replacing human soldiers with obedient animal assassins. I believe the actual words the man used were animal slaves, because that's exactly how he sees them. The military's pitch is simple: fewer boots on the ground, more missions completed, all with minimal cost or conscience. In a chilling demo, a rat outfitted with a drill for a head is used to kill another rat, all remotely controlled, just to show where they're at with their tech. Right. Like, look, God, check this out.
I was really annoyed with, well, not annoyed, but just to show you how we can create so much for creation, for good, so to speak. But this quickly just went from being, look what they have all these rats that he's explaining. Oh, we trained them to rebuild an engine in 48 hours.
Yep.
But then he quickly like, or we could teach them this.
Yeah. Watch them kill each other.
Watch them kill each other.
Yeah.
Like, the hell?
Right. And again,
I mean,
like,
it just makes me like think of like Oppenheimer, right? Where it's like, man, I figured out how to harness the power of the hydrogen atom. Cool. Right. Make a bomb.
And it's also one of those things where it's like, how much do other people have to suffer for human comfort? Right. I was in the military. I understand the need for, like, I mean, come on, we are the country of unmanned drones, right? Like that's the whole purpose of this of having drones in the military is so that less people die, but or less of our people die, less of American soldiers die. But drones are notorious for causing a bunch of casualties and collateral damage that doesn't have to happen, killing innocent people from your truck, where you're remote controlling this drone and dropping bombs on people. You remember all the drone and helicopter footage that permeated the internet, like after 9/11, all the YouTubes and all that kind of stuff. People used to just watch that shit, and there's humans at the end of every one of those explosions. So me, as a veteran, I'm still like, fight your own wars, bro. Like, what do you mean getting all these animals to do this shit? They don't want to fight wars. And
No.
Controversial opinion, we don't really need to be fighting to the death anymore. I think we're at a point of civility. We're supposed to be at a point of civility.
We should be.
At the height.
I'm pretty sure Russia and Ukraine would say otherwise.
Right, but like if you remove, if it wasn't for things like greed, and it wasn't for this self-preservation, this constant need to up the arms because you don't know what the other guy's doing. I don't know what you're doing, so I better have guns because you might have guns. And someone told me you have a bomb, so I should get 2 bombs. So in this effort and this arms race, they now have these animals who are trained to massacre people. And it's against, not only is it against their will, but they are also seen as disposable. How disposable? We're about to get into that. Because Dr. Roseanne Barry shows up, and she's one of the lead scientists on the project, and the only one who seems to actually care about these creatures.
Right.
She breaks down their role to the senator that's there because he's like checking in on the program, and she's like, okay, Bandit is the dog, and he's a mini tank. He'll go. She said calls him one. Sorry, one.
Right.
Is a dog, and he's a mini tank. 2, the cat is stealthy and surgical, and 3, the rabbit is built for chaos, dropping mines and gas. The tech is advanced enough that the animals can even speak, though only in a jumbled, broken English. That is honestly, in my opinion, more tragic than impressive.
Right. And one of the first things that Bandit or One says is, "I am good. Are you good too?" I first took that as he's trying to say I am God, which is why it started to make me go down the rabbit hole, so to speak, of the idea that these animals are already showing what their final agenda is, that they're in control. Yeah. But no, he's literally asking, I'm a good boy, or are you a good boy too?
100%. And it's so simplistic.
So sad.
His mind is so simplistic, and this is the same for like fighting dogs. I don't think fighting dogs are bred to want to rip out the jugular of another dog, but they are trained that that's the good thing to do. I'm training you. I'm putting you in this position, and I need you to do a job for me. If you're able to do that job for me against your own instincts, I'll call you a good boy. I'll give you a treat and rub your head. And sometimes that's all we need. So he is very he's very resigned to wanting to be a good boy. That's very important to Bandit. He really wants the humans to see him as good. And right now, he's as good as he can kill. So, he's trying to fulfill his purpose. But yeah, the broken English stuff, it just, brings me back to Floor and Teeth and, Rocket and I can't remember the otter's name. But like they were all very simplistic in their speech, especially Floor, the rabbit. And it's just it's childlike, it's the innocence of just gaining sentience, or just not really realizing what the whole overall scope of this is. Not realizing what you've gotten yourself into, definitely, right? Barry's attachment to the animals is obvious, but none of it really matters because the senator is impressed, but the program is being shut down. They actually want to move over to the rat army thing. Like that is quicker for them to do. They probably multiply all crazy willy-nilly. These guys, according to the senator, killed their last big target, which was that dictator when they got him on the treadmill. And so they're like, we are shutting down the program. We3 is considered outdated. The trio is to be terminated and replaced by a little army of killer rats. Barry begs for their lives, arguing that they've shown more progress than any of the other test subjects, but her boss, Cody, tells her don't get attached, but she already is. Faced with the horrifying reality that these creatures who just want to live are about to be destroyed, Barry makes a call. She secretly programs their suits to help them escape, disables key security systems, and gives them a fighting chance, and they take it. The cool part about this breakout is it's broken down in a series of dialogue-less panels
and micro panels.
Yes.
Usually a comic book classically has 9-panel grids. This thing is, I believe, 15 panels on a page, and each box is just so detailed, so small, but you see almost nothing.
Yes.
I believe it's supposed to show you how good these animals are, at what they've been programmed to do.
It's interesting, right? Because the language of comic books, even of cinema, right? Like they're shots that you take and even draw. And we are so used to the thing that is of focus being in focus, right in the middle. Being able to clearly, like, that's a very important part of comics, is being able to clearly decipher what's going on in any given image. But this one on purpose obscures exactly what's happening. You see a tail here. You see someone die here. You see the security camera footage over there. And you see like the actual computer screen asking about their restraints here and there. And it's fun. It's daring. I want them to escape. So I'm totally down for this. But it turns very serious when everyone else realizes that they're gone, because they are a bunch of blenders, basically. A bunch of high-tech blenders.
Like, we just lost control of 3 WMDs that can walk.
Yeah. So as the animals finally taste freedom for the first time, they wander into a moonlit forest, lost but alive. And then Bandit looks up and in his glitchy, childlike voice says, "Home?" One word. That's all it takes to completely reframe everything that we've seen, because these aren't killing machines, they're victims. Creatures torn from normal lives, twisted into weapons, and now they just trying to find their way back to something that they even barely remember. And now that they're off the proverbial leash, what will these three get into next?
And that's for me was one of the way trying to interpret what they're saying. When for Bandit, is this, I just went on a mission, so our mission seems like it's done. Are we supposed to go back home to the base?
Yeah,
because he gets into an argument. With two.
Tinker's always beefing with. As we're doing the reread in the notes, those two are always at it. Those two are always at it. Bandit is a bit more towing the line, because again, he wants to get the approval. He wants to get petted. He wants the love, and that only comes with him doing what he's told. The cat has had an attitude from the very beginning. He thinks humans stink, and he will tell them all the time that humans stink. And he just does what he has to, because I guess he gets fed or whatever. And then Pirate barely speaks. He'll speak here and there, but he'll just follow the other two. He trusts the other two. And he'll kind of hang with them. But the concept of home is a constant debate between these three. They have obviously forgotten what life was prior to this We3 program. So what does life mean after it? They know, because Bandit would later ask Barry, please do not decommission us. So he knows that they're trying to shut them down. He has at least that level of intellect. So faced with their own destruction, they run, and now seemingly the world is open to them. But what does that even mean? Where do they go next? What does life look like after something like this?
Immediately the government's already on them. So immediately. The next issue just
it already starts heavy, because We3 is now on the run, and the military is fully on edge. They aren't just rogue animals. I mean, these aren't just rogue animals. They're armed to the teeth, hyper intelligent, and loaded with enough firepower to level a squad in seconds. The soldiers chasing them get warned. These things aren't just dangerous, they're predators with military-grade instincts. So when a Humvee dares to pull up on them, it's a slaughter. The trio tears through the vehicle like it's paper. And they don't stop there because a chopper tries to take them out from above. Bad call. It gets shredded
Yeah.
in mid-air. And you're just seeing viscera and eyeballs and arms and body
Yes.
parts all over. These are now all of this is a defense mechanism. Like they're not seemingly they're not celebrating what they're doing.
No. No.
These animals. They are this is fight or flight for them.
Right.
To the point that initially they were running and the military was gunning down like squirrels and stuff in the in the area. Like you
Well,
just see them getting ripped apart
it's
and stuff.
that for me was another little thing that I feel like Grant's trying to show is, about I almost feel like James Cameron, like, right? Like this
Mhm.
battle between these animals that you've modified and this fighting force. Look what it's really destroying, because they're running. I think part of those animals being killed was them running away. I mean, these
Yeah.
guys are walking tanks, so they're
Mhm.
just running through squirrels. They're running through chipmunks.
There's
They're
that
also
too.
getting
Yeah.
shot, and it's what pays the price in this is just the surroundings.
There's so many casualties as a result of this casualty-less program.
Right,
And
right.
it just lets you know that there isn't nobody, there is no one without their hands dirty. There is nobody 100% protected when you go this route, when you're only doing things, when you're only creating things to kill, for murder.
Yeah,
Um,
and what I love is the whole time in the background is the other doctor from the program.
mhm.
He's telling them like, no, no, you don't understand how well these things are programmed. You you should
Yeah,
really come at it from this perspective, or be more cautious. And the whole time he's saying this stuff, they're just being
yeah,
slaughtered.
yeah. Hot knife through butter with
Yeah,
some of these kills. With the body count rising, one of the lead scientists panics and makes possibly the worst decision ever when he releases the rat army. He's like, you know what? We're doing the rats. We're sending the rats. That's right. Dozens of cybernetic rodents, each one basically a miniature killing machine, are now headed straight for our animal trio. Meanwhile, tensions are flaring. Bandit the dog, aka number one, wants to go home. Tinker the cat, number two, insists there is no home, and that Bandit is actually starting to sound like those humans that used to control them. He thinks he's the boss. And
right.
Tinker's
Stink
like,
boss,
yeah,
stink
all of a
boss.
sudden, like, you're the boss now? What are we doing here? Um, Pirate the rabbit tries to play peacemaker, but the two are practically ready to throw paws when a new threat interrupts. The rats have arrived.
Right.
It's an ambush. But they like kind of tear into them too. Like it's like you see the rats come, and the next panel is Bandit with a rat in its mouth, like just just ripping
Yeah,
it
I
to
mean,
shreds. These things they are no match. Um,
well, but you quickly see that their job wasn't really to combat them.
yeah, it was to distract, or to herd them
Right.
to train tracks because now they're on a bridge with a train barreling straight for them. With no time to think, Pirate sacrifices the structure, blowing up the bridge to hell and sending everyone, rats, train, and all, plummeting into the river below. The chaos fades to an eerie silence because now we don't know what the hell what's going on with anyone.
Nope.
Bandit and Tinker resurface, banged up, but they're alive. Pirate, though, nowhere to be found. Bandit spots a human body floating nearby and tries to be helpful. Drags him to shore, whimpering, good dog, but the man's already torn in half.
Yeah. Which I also saw, like, just it's a sad moment, but what he's
Yeah,
trying to save this person, which shows
100%,
that
100%.
these animals, as much as we first introduced them, and they just run through, like when they killed that dictator
Yeah,
leader
on
or
the treadmill.
whatever,
Yeah,
they they shot him so many times that he was gone.
yeah,
It wasn't there wasn't no, oh, and then check that the body's done. It's like, no, what body? It's
yeah,
gone.
yeah. Swiss
You
cheese
know,
them.
so they're able to show that these things are these homicidal destruction abilities, but yet they also have search and rescue capabilities. Is that their programming, or is that just their internal nature?
Right.
Like what is going on here?
You literally took the thought right out of my mouth, but it's in a microcosm, the debate between nature and nurture. Whether you could be raised out of your instincts or whether your instincts are something that um, comes from a deeper part of your brain. And yeah, how can an animal that is so nonchalant about murdering um, go out of his way to save a single life in this moment?
Hmm.
And it, like I said, I do think it speaks to his instincts and speaks to his nature, probably his upbringing as a house dog initially. Like this is some of that training kind of kicking in from behind, from a place he doesn't even remember, you know? And similarly, Tinkers don't care. Tinkers like,
No.
what the fuck you doing? Like, why are you, what are you doing here? This is
Yeah. No.
ridiculous.
You know, which
Uh,
I as a person that's look, guys, I'm not the biggest animal person.
yeah.
Like I'm not this person that looks at all animals as these sanctimonious creatures that all of them are supposed to like. I look at animals very much like people. You
Yeah.
know, I've met cats I like. I met cats I don't like. I met dogs I like. I met dogs I don't like. I've met many animals. You know, I like eating animals. I like chicken. I like steak.
Yes, that's true.
You know what I mean?
That can definitely get in the way of the animal loving, their
You know,
deliciousness.
you know, and I'm willing to have those conversations exactly as to why is it we drew the line, you know, at dogs. You know, how exactly did that happen? And I know the stories of how it happened, but it's still interesting that it's happened, and it's still so frowned upon when you even have those conversations of, oh, you know, this other country or this culture, you know, eats these animals, and for us, we go, oh my God, and it's just like, well, why? Why is the line drawn there?
Yeah,
And so,
it's a sliding scale of morality because if the point is that we shouldn't subject these animals that we keep domestically to things like that, like there are celebrities and rich people who get what they call designer dogs, which are like genetically engineered
yeah,
specifically to be like domestic and smaller, and they have like an abundance of health issues. But it doesn't matter
right.
because they're a status symbol. So like, oh, I
Mhm.
won't eat them. I will just inject them and play around with their
Right.
DNA and do a bunch of other stuff so that
Hmm.
I can have the dog that looks exactly how I want it. Yeah, it may not breathe correctly and its hips may be displaced and it
Yeah.
might not live as long as a normal dog, but doesn't it look kind of like a
But
bear or whatever?
it's cute. It's
Yeah.
cute and it's mine.
Yeah, so
And you look at it
the
now.
lines are arbitrary. The lines are arbitrary to our civility towards animals because it changes.
Hmm.
I talk oftentimes about like rats just have bad PR. They just need the same PR team that squirrels have because apparently people are down to be like hanging out with squirrels because of their fluffy
Yeah.
tails. If those tails were any thinner, if they had like possum tails, it'd be a wrap. But because they got
Yeah.
the little
And
fluffy stuff, everyone's cool with it.
have you ever seen a squirrel without fuzziness? They
No, I just
look
got
like
chills.
rats. They
Right?
look like rats. But
Yeah.
because they got that perfectly fuzzy cute tail,
I'm
people think
telling you,
it's
man, it's the
you
PR
know.
team. They got good
Right.
PR.
Same thing with like bugs. Same thing with like, I tell people I meet people who, oh, animals are they deserve to be treated well, blah, 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 blah. I go, yeah, but when I came to your house, I saw bug spray.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What's up? What
Spiders,
about
killing
bugs?
spiders, all that kind of stuff.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
100%. Or liking butterflies, but not liking mosquitoes or
Moths.
whatever, like they're moths. Yeah, 100%. That's even
Mhm.
closer, right? Come
Right.
on, man. Stop the
Like, oh,
segregation.
you have no color in your wings?
Yeah,
Not in my house.
ridiculous. So Tinker isn't impressed. He's like, "What are you doing with this? You know, trying to save this guy?" And accuses Bandit of living in a fantasy because he keeps pointing to a home, and Tinker doesn't believes there is no home. Bandit still insists we find three, we go home. We need to
Right.
find Pirate. We need to get back to the crib. Then I just read this and I got goosebumps because Tinker's like sarcastically asking, "Well, where is home? Like where home even is?" And Bandit
Right.
replies, "Home is run no more." That's what home is to him. The place where you do
That's
not
he
have to run
have
anymore.
to run. Right.
And
Yeah.
until they find that place, they are not
Right.
home yet.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
like, damn, run home is
Right.
run no more.
And this is where you know you really get into these animals who are now really becoming characters. And for me, it was just like, all right, you know, I like these animals. I can get down with these animals. I'd give them that home, I
We're
think,
learning
or
their
help them find that
personality.
home.
Yeah, we're learning
Mhm.
their personality. And it goes similarly. Like you talk about, or like people, I meant like the royal you, talk about like the casualties lost in any given war, any given conflict, any given campaign. And those numbers can sound impressive, 5,000 in this war, 2,000, but like
Mhm.
break them down to the individual who had personality, who had thoughts, dreams,
Right.
family members, all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. It means nothing in the grand scheme of all the numbers, just another number. But two families, damaged
Right.
forever because of that loss of life, that means something to
Mhm.
them. And in this instance, like my mind doesn't even know what to do with all this personality because I had just been shown how discarded and how disposable they're supposed to be. I'm not supposed to care about them. The government doesn't want me to care about them. The military doesn't want me to care about them. These scientists don't want me to care about them. Very much like the men and women who kind of like we do the whole people only bring up homeless vets when they don't want to give money to some other minority. Then they're like, well, the vets are homeless, we need to go house them. Okay, anyone volunteering? We could do it tomorrow. Anyone? No,
Right.
nothing.
Right.
Okay, fine, then stop bringing them up. But similarly, like watching, I mean, this is also a meditation on, post service life.
Yeah.
And what is home?
Absolutely.
What is the next phase when you're trained to do a very specific thing that has no other use in the rest of the world?
I mean, it does, but it's kind of frowned on,
Yeah. I remember like I got out, I was in field artillery, which is also very specific, right? A very particular job. And they're like, yeah, you can be a cop. And I'm like, well, that's just me putting on the uniform and the weapon again. Like, is there anything else you guys got for me? Like, I don't know if I should I don't know how I felt about just getting right into, nothing against, serving in any of the armed forces. But at the time, it felt jarring to just get into another uniform, get on another line, get in another school, get on another weapon, become another serial number. And you forget sometimes that every individual is a person with their own life, their own personality. And we're seeing it on a very small scale with these animals. And
Right.
instantly, we have won wars, especially with stuff like Vietnam, which we actually lost, but we have won wars off of the idea of dehumanizing our enemies, of making them less than human. Thus,
Yeah.
when we kill scores of them, it doesn't matter. And it only takes a conversation to realize how similar we all kind of are. And we're getting that, we're overhearing that conversation with these animals. And again, if they never spoke, if this was all completely quiet, I would just be like, this is a weird kind of story with with these killer animals that got loose because they got loose and then they got killed or whatever, or they, it ended the way it ended. But they make it a point to give them motivations, give them, things that they want that are quite common. Not having to run anymore, to be safe, to want to be good, not knowing what good is and just trying your best. Like those are all very human, very human concepts. So I really, really like how they tackled that with this.
No, right in this moment too is where what's about to happen. It really humanizes these creatures and makes you feel for them even more.
Yeah. As night falls and they retreat to the woods, they spot Pirate in the distance, but he's not alone. A hunter, spooked by the sight of him, standing alongside his dog, opens fire. Pirate goes down, injured but alive, and that's the last straw. Tinker ruthlessly decapitates the hunter's dog in a second. I have to go back and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what happened there.
Yeah. And this is just a testament to Frank Wiley. A lot of people aren't fans of Frank Wiley, and I can see why. Like when he draws people, like
Is it the wrinkles?
the way the wrinkles, right? When he drew the way he drew Superman, the way he drew the X-Men, but for some reason, the way he draws these animals is just so spot on and so dynamic. The way he has them move. Like same thing. The first time I saw the panel, I'm thinking, Bandit took out the dog and the shooter at the same time. And then I look at it again, I go, yo, the cat. Cat's like
he's always on. He is always ready to throw hands. That cat is always ready to interject himself into something like this. And we just came from them saving humans. So we know that the murder thing isn't programmed into Bandit just to do it. This is he does now out of anger because of what happens to Pirate. And what's even worse is I'm trying to form the words, but it's like I almost wish he would have died there. The stuff he gets drug into later, like dealing with a massive brain injury.
yes.
is so
Yeah.
tragic. It's so
Yeah.
jacked up. Like,
Yeah.
and we see his head like seemingly explode with this gunshot.
Yeah.
We're shown this very visceral image, and we're all banded in that moment. We're all like, this mother, and we don't want to,
That's my
handle
boy
it.
Blue.
Yeah, 100%. So, like I said, Tinker ruthlessly decapitates the hunter's dog. Bandit mauls the man himself, and then is immediately flooded with guilt. He
Right.
just starts to repeat himself, bad dog.
Bad dog. Like,
Bad dog. So he knows what's the difference between right and wrong.
right.
Or at least he
I mean-
has an
I mean,
eternal conscience.
This whole encounter starts with Pirate in front of what we recognize as this is a bit of a scary situation.
Mhm.
But just to show again how these things are programmed for this violence, and if they're not being antagonized, they just sit there.
Yeah.
Right? Pirate sees a car, it's just like, oh, what's good? How you
And
doing?
to them, this is like some kind of weird Transformer Terminator. They don't know what the hunter doesn't know what the hell he just came upon. This weird
Right.
half rabbit Terminator Transformer thing that might kill him. Who knows?
Yeah.
So people do things out of fear. And I mean, wholeheartedly, they were created because of the military fear of, right? Needing
Mhm.
more guns, needing more weapons. All of this is because of fear. I don't know what's more tragic. Bandit sitting there calling himself a bad dog, or Pirate not even able to form words, trying to, and it's just like,
Just
like while it's like bleeding from its skull.
right. Right. Can I get a Band-Aid?
Horrific.
Hey,
Well,
two. Can you come like lick my head?
I mean, they
Something?
all have like murder hands, so they can't even like help
I
each
know.
other do things. Like they're in Iron Man suits. Back at the base, the situation is spiraling. They've lost the rats.
Yeah.
They've lost these guys here. The scientists were hoping that the medication that they were on that keeps them alive with all these cybernetic enhancements would wear off by now. But although it is wearing off, it's not wearing off quick enough. And now they're less than 5 miles away from a city packed with nearly 1 million people. And to the military, those things get out over there, it's a wrap. And not only that, it would uncover this entire, clandestine operation.
They don't want people knowing about this because that's kind of right. The whole reason why I say this will never be made into a movie. People would they just hear the concept and go, yeah, we're going to protest that because.
Gosh, I can't remember what. Oh, I think it was called the Excalibur round. When I was in the military and I went overseas, we had to test this thing called the Excalibur round. The Excalibur round was a method of field artillery where you would shoot this round and you would shoot it and aim it at a location where if it landed, like nothing bad would happen, right? So you would shoot it in that location. So it would go like towards that barren wasteland. Once it hit a certain altitude, fins would pop out the side of it and GPS would take over and get it to where it had to go. Once it got to where it had to go, usually a building, a structure, it could be modified on purpose to have a delayed explosion. It would come down 90 degrees on the building, and then you choose the delayed explosion. The idea being to minimize casualties. It would go through the building first and not explode on impact, but explode when you wanted it to, and then kill everybody inside. These rounds were like $1 million a piece or something very close to that, at least 20 years ago. And we had to shoot one every time I went to Iraq so that we would have it on the budget that we needed one. And then we would just have one. You've heard of that thing with regular budgets, right? Like we need to use the budget money so that
if you don't spend it, the next time they're going to say you don't need it,
Yeah.
Right.
So, I'll try to make this as short as possible. But in a world where we're constantly talking about cutting costs, I can tell you, we spend a lot of money on things to kill people. We spend a lot of money on things to kill people. And for some strange reason, any talk about limiting that money angers people because they feel like that's our only protection is us having the most guns in the world. or this high tech weaponry. We haven't cured the common cold, but I know how to send a missile 90 degrees into a building with a delayed response and kill everybody inside.
That's
We don't
insane.
have universal health care, but we have
I've
sights, and we can do. The common person knows how to turn a semi-automatic into an automatic in case they want to, I don't know, take a trip to a school or something. But
right.
this is the world that we live in. So none of this that I'm seeing shocks me. You would think it's like, oh, we got these poor animals out there. We should capture them and like rehab them. But it's like, no, they're out there. We need to kill them. They're our mistake. They're our Frankensteins. We need to
Right.
kill them.
Right.
And I'm sorry, Frankenstein's monster. Someone's gonna get at me for that.
Right.
Read a
Frankenstein's
book.
doctor. Read a book. I don't know how to read. That's why I read the books with the pictures. Damn it. All right, we ain't covering Tales of Two Cities here. But anyway, back at the base, like I said, they're spiraling, and they're getting close to that city. So desperate times call for desperate measures. They deploy Weapon 4, a monstrous hybrid of dog, machine, and pure carnage. You kind of look like a basset hound.
Yeah, I'm not a
Dog expert.
Dog expert. I was like,
Dogology.
Is this a
You're not a
is this a
dogologist.
bulldog? Is this a dogologist? The technical term, right?
The nomenclature, dogology.
It's like, is this a mastiff? Is this a bulldog?
It might be
But
a mastiff because they mentioned earlier on. They're like, why did we show him the rats and the rabbit? We should have shown him the mastiff. And they're like, Weapon 4 is not ready.
Okay.
Weapon 4 is not ready.
Yeah, that's why I just put a 4 because I was like, that's 4, and he is 4 huge. This guy is massive, man. But
And
even then, like when you see the picture, his face is so you can just see it's glazed over.
Yeah,
right. He's got that big old.
He's
dog
more
face.
machine than dog at this point.
Yeah.
There's nothing natural about him. You can get none of that same sympathy that you get in the eyes of the other ones.
Exactly.
You know what? Now that you say that, you've connected a hell of a dot for me because it is that moment. It's the moment of unmasking them and looking into their eyes that first gets you to sympathize with these animals, in my opinion.
Absolutely. No, there's a huge scene. There's a huge scene at the end, which I'll save it for the end. But I think you know the scene I'm talking about, where a certain thing happens to somebody and it zeroes in on the eyes, and that was what made me start going back, because again, Grant trusts Frank to tell this story so much through the pictures, because this is really mostly a silent book.
Yeah.
And again, a testament to Grant Morrison. He wrote one of the greatest silent issues with that issue of New X-Men.
Yeah.
Where you get the origin of the big villain in one of his first arcs with the X-Men, and it's quite there's one word in the entire issue. Like one word at the very end of the issue.
Yeah.
But yet I remember that issue as if though it had words. And even this, like, that's why when I revisited those first 16 pages of this story, I remember sounds and words because the pictures are they say so much. But then when I went and said, I was like, page 16, I had 16 pages of silence, yet my brain heard and saw and felt so many different things. Like, it's crazy.
We often talk about how Grant is able to sort of break the norms in comics to kind of transcend them. And similarly, he's allowing Frank to do the same because, like we were just talking about, some of the panel usage in this is bonkers. Just the way that they're oriented, the way that he shows action and what he chooses to show and what he chooses not to show. There's a lot of reliance on him being able to tackle the things that Grant wants to be communicated. And like I said, it's a lot of credit to the audience because I do think that the brain connects these dots. Like you said, you hear the conversations, you hear the explosions, all that kind of stuff, even though it's not there. What a testament to us three working together, the reader, Frank Quietly, and Grant Morrison, We3. So to make matters worse, Dr. Roseanne Barry, now restrained for aiding the trio's escape, is forced into a new role. She has to lure We3 into a trap. The very animals who trusted her are now being set up to die, and their final opponent is nothing short of a cybernetic nightmare. That's how we end issue 2.
Yeah. And they tell her that she's going to be part of the reason they get lured out. So it's like, oh man, the creatures I've been trying to save I'm gonna have to help get killed
Yep.
by this murder, like the ultra form of these creatures, you know?
And deal with whatever the repercussions are for freeing them. Because initially they were talking about like we're going to decommission We3 and you might just be fired. Like you may, like
Right.
that was your job, and if there's no We3 anymore, then you'll just be fired. And then it kind of transforms into um her being in cuffs, and like you let them free, so now you will help us kill them.
Right.
And she's torn up. Um,
Terrible.
our final issue opens up on a surprisingly tender moment. A homeless man finds our broken, battle-worn trio hiding out in an abandoned building and brings them a Happy Meal, which I thought was kind of like, oh, look at that. Because even cybernetic killing machines deserve a cheeseburger every now and then.
The toy, especially the toy.
This this moment here, I feel like sums up almost the entire book because the animals try to intimidate him at first. Like, get out of here, human! Like, you get out of here. And he tells them, like, no, I'm the master. Like, you can't tell me what to do because they're so weak. They haven't had their
Yeah.
medication.
No,
They haven't eaten.
right. Hmm.
And so they're
It's
so weak, but their instinct initially is to like intimidate him. But it's clear that they're in a rough shape. And I don't know if it's the lack of medication, or whatever, but they look to be visibly crying.
hmm
And that's heartbreaking in and of itself, like they're a family now. They have to fend for themselves, and here comes this stranger showing up into where they're literally cornered animals. They've literally locked
Right.
themselves into a corner of this abandoned building. This guy shows up, who knows what he's here for, and yeah, their instinct initially is to fight, and the man isn't scared. He breaks up the food, he gently feeds them, and voices how he's disgusted with anyone who would ever create or make them into what they are today.
Right.
So we found a good person, and he's also a member of society people would discard because he doesn't
Right.
have status, he doesn't have a home. So who the
Right.
hell cares? What do you think about this beginning scene here?
Oh, I mean, it was heartbreaking when you first see them looking exhausted because up until this point, you've always seen them as almost these unstoppable machines, and they're always looking pristine almost, and just never once you seem tired.
Yeah.
But yet in this now you got poor bandit. I mean, pirate. It's still with his injury. Can't
Mhm.
make any words. The other two look tired. They look like they're detoxing because they're missing their medication, as well as they're probably just exhausted.
Yeah.
From the adventure that they've already been on in what seems like the last maybe 8 hours. Because this all happens very quickly. There's
Well,
no way.
I
There's
would
no way that
say now I was just thinking about it. It has to be 2 nights, right? Because they had night one, and then night two just happened with Bandit getting shot at night in the street. So I think at least a day, and that's what I'm saying, like a day without food because they've
right.
not been fed, a day without medication. Who knows what these weird cybernetic things are doing to their regular body that they're being medicated, right? Who know they might be experiencing extreme pain all the time, but they're so doped up that they don't feel it.
Right.
But now they're in this position and they're just succumbing to all of their issues.
Yeah, and it makes it more heartbreaking later on when you realize something that they don't realize about themselves
Yeah,
later on.
yeah,
Because and even for us as the reader, we don't really know this for a fact until that point.
right.
But it's like, yeah, we'll get there. We'll get
Thing is, things are bad. Tinker's throwing up and says that she's sick. Without their medication, the animals are starting to shut down. The man realizes they're in serious trouble and heads out to find tools to help them. Outside, the city is tightening the noose. Cops have set up blockades and are questioning everyone about the missing animals. But the homeless man, he slips through unseen, just another invisible part of the city. And
Right.
the most important part, he don't snitch. And called the
Nope.
cops fascist. He was like, he's like, I'm keeping my animal pals and screw all of you guys.
That's right.
Meanwhile, the military's done playing around. Weapon 4, a towering, relentless machine beast, is deployed. Dr. Roseanne Barry, now handcuffed and devastated, is forced into one final mission: lure her former companions to their deaths. Back at the hideout, things are unraveling. Tinker's in agony, getting worse by the minute. Bandit still believes the man will come to help, but Tinker's faith is gone. I kind of love this conversation. I kind of love Bandit being like, no, the man said he's coming back. He is coming back. He said, wait. So we will wait. And the guy's like, no, man gone. No one coming. I'm dying. I'm freaking dying out here.
It's over,
You're telling me to
It's
wait for,
over.
you're telling me to wait for this dude. I don't even like humans. And I'm almost sure this guy's not coming back. And Bandit's like, bro, like, stick with it, you know?
Yeah, no,
It's just showing his underlying faith in man, even though they've done all this kind of stuff to him. All of a sudden, Pirate, who again hasn't been able to communicate much, wanders off, muttering something none of them can understand. Bandit follows, only to find Pirate standing face to face with Weapon 4.
And it's such a
massive
difference, man. It's you, and it's just like, I don't think they're gonna survive this.
That's your instant thing, but the next image kind of brought a smile to my face, because whether it's brain damage,
right,
which is very possible, or just pure courage, Pirate doesn't flinch. He stands tall and his eyes are defiant. He's ready to throw hands with this beast.
And you wonder, part of it, I wondered about this was he kind of accepting it, like, look, I ain't gonna survive this regardless. This injury. So since if I'm going down saving my buddies and taking out this monstrosity. You know,
he was like one of the only ones never questioning that they were a trio, that it was them as a team. You know, he was not one of the ones constantly fighting back over the idea of going home or any of the other kind of stuff. He was kind of content with being with his boys, and he can't communicate to them. But one of the things that is interesting is that they say that one of the benefits to having this animal program is that they're heightened senses. So who knows what Pirate heard, smelled, how he knew there was a threat in the distance. I don't think he just walked up and they bumped into each other. I think he was aware that something was coming. And when he saw what it was, he was, like you said, willing and resigned to, well, I ain't got much left, but if I'm going to kill, this is the guy I'm going to kill.
Right.
In a heartbreaking scene, by the time Bandit catches up, Pirate is clutched inside Weapon 4's jaws. Blood everywhere.
Horrific panel. Horrific.
Like, again, I read it the first time and I was like, oh, that's kind of jacked up. But when you have to take notes and you have to examine every panel to make sure you're not missing something, this is some of the most gnarly artwork for a character I cared about I've ever seen. He's literally like just biting on his skull. He's literally just biting on whatever's exposed. It's on his skull. And I'm just like, what is going on? And again, you're like, damn, this sucks. Pirate's going out. It is what it is. But Pirate has one final act left in him. He drops a bomb. He goes, uh-oh.
Which I was so, because in that moment, I was like, oh, my man is like Bugs Bunny. Like, uh-oh, Doc. Yeah. You know, here you go.
He learned from the best, one of the best of his class.
That's right. It was just very much like a wink, like all right.
Yeah.
Here we go. I'm taking this thing out.
So he drops a bomb, boom, massive explosion. Bandit stumbles out of the wreckage and runs into Dr. Barry, who tearfully pleads with him to come with her. Snipers have Bandit in their sights. Bandit, desperate, begs her not to decommission We3. She says something that ends up changing everything. That's not your name. You're not number one. You're Bandit.
Right.
And
I love the way she communicates with him, almost in his language.
Yeah, in the broken English.
Bandit. And even the lettering changes to show that she must be even changing her voice.
Yeah.
So that he can better understand it. Which, for me, this is where I started getting Weapon X vibes.
Oh, 100%.
Barry Windsor Smith's, beautiful thing that we've covered on the channel. I was like, oh yeah, this is like,
there's absolutely no way this doesn't take from some of it, especially with getting another weapon to get the weapon. Like that's very much Weapon X. So that, and again, yeah, the torture and forgetting the person that you were before this program took you and did what it did to you. She gave them the gift of life by freeing them, but one of the biggest gifts she gave them is identity. Is the ability to be their own thing, not number one, not part of We3, but just be Bandit, and kind of alludes to the idea that he had a life before all this. And
and we know they did. We know they did by the fact that
the wanted
they were
posters and stuff.
These weren't dogs that they found at a shelter or they bought and raised
somehow this was no. You had a home, you had a family. Each one of these animals did.
Inside each one of these issues is the like help wanted, help me find my animal flyer in this.
Right.
You know, with their loving family, wanting to know where they are, and you know all that comes with it. She gives him this gift of his identity, tells him that he's Bandit, and then the snipers open fire. But Barry throws herself in front of the bullets. She dies, and something in Bandit snaps. He's over all this.
Yeah,
He's over all this. I don't know what's going on. And he immediately starts to try to find to put hands on him, even though he knows he's outmatched. He's saying, bad dog, bad dog. Like, this is the dog that's causing all this death. People are dying. Weapon 4 ends up looming above him because he's on top of a truck, and he's ready to finish the job. Bandit charges, even though he's completely outmatched. Weapon 4 blows off part of his armor. But just when all hope seems lost, Tinker dives in. Tinker shows up.
That's right.
He got talk about Weapon X. He got his claws out.
Yeah,
he snicks.
He's coming down beautifully. I mean, so much happens. I mean, already think about it.
We've only read 2.5 issues of this book so far,
and there's so much going on. There's so much you can re-examine, even before where Dr. Barry dies, and all you see is her eyes, and her eyes are reminiscent of the way that the animals' eyes look when they're experimented on.
Yeah,
which. I felt like it was like saying, you know, these animals are basically dead
inside
by being these animatronics, because you know she's dead, and this is what their eyes look like in that manner. So it's like they're dead, right? Because they're not being themselves. They're not being themselves. That's how I took it.
No, 100%. Like I said, we talk about the disposable nature of soldiers in the military in general, and this idea that they may not be seen as living. You know, like again, like, these are just all tools. That somebody who is in an air-conditioned room, you know, with loafers on, decides who lives and who dies sometimes. Even when Barry dies, there's not like a big thing about the military, or they're like, oh shit, I guess she's dead now. You know, they don't cry over it.
And then I like that again. The doctor's making commentary because they're sitting there going, okay, you know, he took out the rabbit, he's about to take a dog. Where's the cat? And the doctor's like, no. She trained them to work as a team.
Yep.
Like, no, this whole time, this is a rope-a-dope state, baby. This is okay, I got you. All right, come on in, you know.
And again, even though Bandit is kind of the focus of this book, Tinker, this is a change for Tinker, because Tinker had been beefing with Bandit this whole time, and Tinker is sick. Tinker's dying, and still chooses to come out and shoot the fair one because that's his boy. You know, the Bandit's his boy, and he ain't gonna be messing with us. But you're right. He immediately claws at Weapon 4's face, because there's one thing Dr. Barry taught them, and that's to fight together.
Claws out one of this thing's eyes. Ugh.
The brawl crashes into the streets. When Weapon 4 goes after some nearby cops that try to take him down, Bandit pulls one to safety, proving once again that he's a good dog. But with too many lives at stake, the military makes the call. They detonate the kill switch in Weapon 4's head. The explosion ends it. Again, you know, like disposable.
It's not a thing. It's a weapon.
There's a haunting image of it without eyes. Its face completely mutilated, and it has like an all black text bubble where you can't
understand it. It's not human. It's not even intelligible speak. It's a machine. It's a thing.
Yeah.
I was only a little bit bothered by this, and I guess you just have to accept the fact that the Dr. Barry must have disabled their fail safes.
Yeah.
Because I sat there and wait, if they could just detonate.
Detonate
this thing. Why didn't they just detonate these three bodies and then recover the technology?
Suicide Squad, their asses. Yeah.
Right. Hey, what was the name of that? What was the?
Which one?
What was the guy in the movie?
Slipknot.
Slipknot. Hey, go escape. I just want to see.
Yeah, I just want to see something.
Okay. They mean it. They're for real. They're for real. They totally they slipknotted number 4. But I was just like, I guess she must have disabled their failsafe if they even had them. It's just not. It's not mentioned. It's just not mentioned.
And then I wonder if it might have just been an oversight. If they didn't think that these guys would ever get out, so they didn't think that, you know, because they don't. To my knowledge, they don't keep these guys in the cage similar to 4. 4 is like in this heavy fortified like cinder block with bars on it or whatever like that. They seem very scared of 4, so I wouldn't be surprised if they put extra precautions on 4 and didn't do it on these 3. What's the rabbit gonna do, kind of thing? And now it's like, oh shit, the rabbit's out and he's going ham. The animals hide in the sewer after all this. They're wounded, they're exhausted. When the sun rises, Bandit looks up and sees a building under construction. Home, he says, as helicopters approach. And the animals end up heading inside. Bandit notes that his leg is broken, but then he realizes it's not him that's broken, it's the suit.
Right.
Coat is not Bandit.
Yes.
He says. He realizes that it's the armor, and the armor isn't him, as he was told before. One isn't Bandit. He's learning more and remembering more about who he actually is as an animal, as opposed to what he was told. He then looks at Tinker and says, "Coat is not we," which can be translated to "we are not the armor that we wear." We are not just this. When the soldiers finally storm the building, all they find is discarded armor and a beeping sound. All of a sudden, boom, a grenade takes them all out. But don't worry, our trios made it. The homeless man came back like he said he would. He used the tools he found to remove their armor. They're finally free. Tinker, ever the predator, stalks a rat. He's doing his same little leaps that he was doing when he was murdering other people, but now he's murdering a little rat. They're also even cuter because there's still parts of them shaved for their cybernetic, enhancements.
Yeah.
They got still wires and stuff hanging off of them and stuff. It's gonna take a little while to rehab, but they are free.
Yes, that's it. They're free. And I love the fact that they're still helping each other, because even one, it was heart-wrenching for them to realize, okay, I'm not a machine. And even for me, I'm like, I remember the first time reading this going, oh my God, are they about to kill themselves?
Oh yeah, right.
Because
existential crisis.
No, not even on purpose. The idea that, you don't realize is like this machine is keeping them alive.
Right, I get you.
You know what I mean? Like, and how much of them is actually in this machine? Like, I was expecting them to be just like heads, but with the fact that they were still complete under it, I was like, oh wow. And then even when Bandit is trying to help the cat get out of his machine, the cat initially is like, oh, you're gonna kill me, because he bites him.
But he doesn't know exactly how to.
He's using precise biting to get him out, and then the cat's like, oh, appreciate that. Oh, this is great. And it's like, oh, they're still their complete animal selves, which was it was nice to see. It's like, are we gonna get a happy ending here? And yeah.
And then again, like I'm choked up at various points in here. Choked up with the coat is not we. Choked up with you're not one, you're Bandit. All this other kind of stuff. But Bandit is like, he's exhausted. He's laid out. Tinker's having fun eating rats. He's chilling. But Bandit doesn't even know where he is. And he asks Tinker, where are they now? And Tinker, after everything they've been through, simply replies, is home. He bought it.
That's it.
He bought it. He believes it. He believes in everything Bandit said. They are at a place where they no longer have to run. Someone has shown them enough kindness that they don't have to wear their armor anymore. This is all metaphor. This is all the journey of life. In the final pages, we see a ripple effect. A whistleblower scientist is taking the We3 program to court, effectively ending the political career of Senator Washington. As the scientist walks up the steps to testify, he spots a homeless man sitting nearby with a dog and a cat at his side. He smiles, drops a few bucks in the man's hand, and tells Bandit, "Good dog."
It's not a few bucks.
How much you give him?
He gives him a few $100s. This is not a dumb guy. No, because he knows what those animals are.
They still got their wires and shit stuck to them. He
knows what they are. And on the cover of the paper that's released, it says the scientist's testimony is what brought it down. So he like seeing his colleague get slaughtered, realizing, he saw the work she put in, realizing, wow, this program is so awful. So he took it out from the inside for the sake of these animals. So
100%.
He's giving this guy all this money in hopes of it goes somewhere and takes care of the animals and provides them a home. Which I love the fact that a home here is shown as a concept. You know what I mean? Like because sometimes people go, oh, they need a house, they need a nice apartment or something like that. No,
Hmm.
home is literally, look, they're sitting on a stoop. This dude is giving them some food, and they're home. They're together. They're taking care of each other, and
And don't
it's
have to
nice.
run.
And they don't have to run. Right? They can walk around. They just chill out. Home is where your heart is. Right?
Yeah. Home is home. That's gonna stick with me for a very long time. Home is no run.
There's no
Home
run.
is where you don't have to go anywhere else because you're where you're supposed to be. And yeah, just watching these animals figure out their own self-worth. They went from being discardable, disposable, to being with somebody who makes them feel safe and cared for and makes them feel quite literally good,
Mm.
and that they can be good and that they can do good. And that's so important. Like just in general, like I'm talking about people out there, like your friends and your family. They should be people that make you feel good and make you feel like that you can do good. And they should be people that you can take your armor off around, and people that, you can rest with and not have to feel like you have to run out anywhere. Compassion is the greatest gift that we can give each other, give animals, other countries, other people of different backgrounds. And we see, sometimes I like to remind myself how cruel nature can be, and I can watch some like animal fight videos or some predator videos, But then sometimes I get in the habit of watching like a monkey and a dog become best friends,
Right.
and I'm just like, there's still so much compassion and empathy in the world that isn't spoken, very much like this comic, right? Where you have to look through, but it exists. And there's a lot of people making a lot of money off of feeding people this idea that empathy doesn't exist, and that this mutual love that we should have for one another, it's all hokey. But that's the only way we evolve as a species, is by treating each other with compassion, not looking over each other. These are, like I said, the homeless man and them go hand in hand. They were both discarded,
Right.
you know, but they see each other, and they see each other as perfectly fine living
Fine.
beings,
That's right. That's right.
because their relationship is full of love. So as I always do with this kind of stuff, thank you for recommending this comic. I now own it hardcover. I think I'm gonna watch Guardians 3 after this to get a little bit more animal.
Yeah. What you could see, when we talked about Guardians 3, I was like, one of the first things I was like, man, this is like We3.
Yeah, and I was like,
You
yeah,
know?
you're like, yeah, we do. And then again, like, it's so much like it. Then James Gunn just outwardly says it is, and then he writes the forward for the story.
Right.
So you just
So
showing how impactful it was to him. And I want all of these stories to be Trojan horses of empathy. I want
right.
all of these stories to be Trojan horses of love and understanding. Yeah, the blue aliens fought the green aliens. Why are they fighting over color? Yeah. Why
Oh,
are they fighting over
huh.
color? What is that about?
Don't put your agendas in my comics. And they've
Yeah,
always been there,
it's
man.
always been Trojan horses,
And
man. This
it's
is
not an agenda. It's just a message.
the lasers, the cybernetics, the portals, the magic. They're all just spoonfuls of sugar, so you can take your actual medicine, which is what you actually need, which is love and empathy and understanding. And because Grant is such a advocate for this medium, is why we get stories like this, because he decides that he knows that the comic book medium can be more than what it
Mhm.
can, when some people think it is. And so you do something like this, and this may go under the cover for other people, and this may not be our most listened episode, but this comic is important, this story is important, and hopefully we put it a little bit more on the radar of other people, and hopefully this story finds the people that need it, because I do think there's people out there that need it, that shouldn't have to feel decommissioned or disregarded or disposable. But yeah, we thought we'd do something a little bit more emotional, because next week we're doing Daredevil.
Oof.
So,
That's like that's a different kind of emotion.
it's a whole different kind of animal, but it's because we are about to embark on an incredible period here as far as comic book media is concerned. Daredevil just finished wrapping up. We just finished Invincible. Our review for that's already out. But Thunderbolts is right around the corner. Superman is right around the corner. Fantastic Four is right around the corner. The implications of all of that on their respective universes is around the corner. Incursion is about to happen over at the Ultimate Universe. DC is flooding their ultimate or absolute line, like more and more. They just did 3 new number ones in the last 2 months with Absolute Green Lantern, Absolute Martian Manhunter, and Absolute Flash. So again, rarefied air. But we wanted to tackle something small, but still heartfelt, because we were about to get onto the roller coaster of blockbuster stuff. And sometimes that stuff ends up not being as deep as it possibly should. So it's important to come to the quieter stories on occasion and really mediate over what this medium can be, because sometimes the movies will make you think that they can only be one thing as well. Or movie fans can make you feel that way. And so it's always a labor of love here as part of Comic Book Clique to tackle these stories. And we do it for love. Every episode of the Major Issues podcast, thank you for listening to this one, is available at ComicBookClique.com. That's over 370 hours of content. It's a lot of hours, people. But yeah, and it also didn't help that I just finished Black Mirror season 7, and so this is all Black Mirror technology craziness. But
I haven't touched any of that. I'm still on Black Mirror season 3. So
okay, it's some depressing stuff, but I like dark media. So yeah, get on the bandwagon before the bandwagon gets full. Check out our prior episodes. Get geared up for one of the biggest episodes of the Major Issues podcast ever next week with our Daredevil coverage on there. Go to comicbookclique.com for everything that we do. Articles written by us. We break news, whether it be comic book news, casting news, pop culture news. We do comic book reviews. And then again, every episode of the Major Issues podcast is there. Also, you can reach our TeePublic store there and purchase something that was designed by me, and we get a kickback of every single thing that you guys purchase. You can go to our Patreon from comicbookclique.com, and for $3 a day, 10 cents a week, $3 a month, 10 cents a week,
10 cents,
a day. $3 a month, 10 cents a day. I think I'm getting that brain thing that I think it transferred through the wires. $3 a month, 10 cents a day. You guys can help support us and keep the lights on here so we can afford the hardware and the software that we need to keep producing content free of charge. Without making any huge announcements, I'm about to have a bunch of free time. So Comic Book Clique is about to, you're about to get a new influx of media. People, we are really looking at this company as it reaches 9 years on the 20th. We're really looking at this company and really seeing what the evolution of it really can be. We've done some really awesome things in the past, and we're trying to do some really awesome things in the future. Sometimes it just takes a leap of faith. I'm listening to you, Miles. So we're about to go full bore with all things Comic Book Clique, and I can say that because of the tremendous team that I have behind me that does great work and pushes me and Comic Book Clique to be better each and every week. So just wanted to give out that shout out there. We're not the only one experiencing a very crazy time at the moment. The guys at DirtSheet Radio, who you can find at dirtsheetradio.com, who share space over at comicbookclique.com, the industry leaders in all things professional wrestling and pop culture, are gearing for an incredible week. Their founder, our boy, John Escudero, aka Yogi, is currently in Japan. We have
the land of the rising sun,
so he can, expand his mind even bigger and become even better for DirtSheet Radio. The other guys are holding it down over there, doing post shows for things like Raw, Dynamite, SmackDown, Ring of Honor, and more. And then this weekend is Stand and Deliver, WrestleMania Night 1, WrestleMania Night 2, Raw, and then NXT, all back to back. Hall of Fame. It's still a thing. I think that's going on at 1:00 in the morning on Friday. So yeah, those guys will be on it. I do not envy them, but that is why they are the industry leaders in professional wrestling and pop culture. Their tireless effort to cover as much professional wrestling as they possibly can. So check out those guys at DirtSheet Radio. I like to say the DirtSheet Radio is always on. You just need to check out what's playing. So go ahead and check out those guys there. Reach out to us. I love this podcast, but I love talking to you guys on social media. And you can find us at facebook.com/comicbookclick, Instagram at comicbookclick, and you can use the hashtag comicbookclick to talk about the newest, hottest, latest, and greatest things to come to comic books and comic media. I've been to the future where both DirtSheet Radio and Major Issues Podcast are the industry leaders in what they're doing. But I can't tell you how we do it because it'll mess up the timeline. And next thing you know, The Rock wants to play one of the dogs, and they're like, "You already did that. You did Super Pets, and no one watched Super Pets, so we're not gonna cast you for this."
I watch Super Pets.
I'll put it on the schedule. I'll put it on the schedule, bro. I'll put it on the schedule just for you, so we can tackle Super Pets. But yeah, man, get on the bandwagon before it gets full. I know we sound hyperbolic, but every time I've told you guys that we're rising to new heights, to new platforms, to new media, it happens. So I'm telling you guys now, get on the bandwagon, tell your friends, because the places that we're going to be going next, you're going to be wanting to go in with us. And there's only so much room on the Blue Origin space 10-minute trip that we're about to go take. Yeah. So make sure that you get yourselves a seat, because it's about to be fun. But yeah, next week, Daredevil, and then everything else that comes from it. We actually have to revamp the schedule. So I'm hoping to tackle some of that this weekend, so we can get all of our summer stuff done, because the Daredevil reschedule kind of messed up our schedule a little bit. So we got to retool some stuff, which again will be fun to do and a labor of love from us. So just make sure that you're here next week for the Daredevil recap and review. If you're watching live on Facebook, all of this comes out in audio form every Thursday. That's when Major Issues Podcast actually drops. If you only listen to audio, follow us on Facebook, and our spontaneous sort of live video feed of this podcast being recorded with all the blemishes exists. So consider being a part of that, because that's kind of fun too. Not only do you get to hear the podcast before it actually comes out, but you get to see us, and we want to connect with you guys more. So consider doing that. But I think I got everything off my plate that I have to. Keep following everything that we do here. Major Issues once a week. We do major previews once a month. And Alex has been doing a great job putting out his weekly hauls, the comic books that he's been picking up. Getting a little bit comfortable behind the camera there. I think the people right now, I'm seeing more shares. I'm seeing more likes. I think people want the cog. All right. So
no, they do. They do.
Maybe just a little bit, maybe just a tip. But we are doing our best to give you guys the tip. And the tip is check out everything ComicBookClique does, because we are going to the moon. So saddle up. But my name is George Serrano, aka the Don.
And I'm Alex Garcia, aka the Cog. And just one more thing I wanted to say, guys. If you enjoyed just these comics about animals, there's tons out there. There's tons and tons out there. Off rip that I'll tell you right now, go read Pride by Brian K. Vaughan, and check out Ferals, which I know the Don here has been enjoying.
And what's the other one? What's the other one?
Stray Dogs. Stray Dogs.
Yeah.
So it's out there, guys. And if you want to be ahead of the game, read it, because we're going to be covering them all soon.
Definitely. But this has been our We3 by Grant Morrison recap and review. And remember, whether you're a dog or a cat or a ruthless killing machine designed only for murder, remember that we are the Clique. Remember, home means no run. And always remember that you, yes, you are worthy. Thanks, guys.